Hey everybody, Coach Mike here, and let me welcome you to Kids in Sports. Kids in Sports is a podcast that I'm restarting, so to speak. I used to do an online radio show on Adrenaline Radio out in Southern California. Kids in Sports. And it's about youth sports. Teach first, win later. And I want to provide a community. I want to create a community to discuss and improve youth sports issues. You see parents arguing about stuff, and some parents are trying to figure out youth sports, and everybody's got answers for you, right? Well, I want to just have a community here to see if we can't improve that. I'm going to bring some guests on the show. I'm going to have a great guest today. My friend Chris Colby is going to join me in a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about our experiences. If you know a coach or somebody that should be on the show, a player, a parent, hey, let's get the stories out there. Let's tone down the temperature a little bit so we can all get along and our kids can benefit, right? Because it's really all about them. So keep that in mind. Check out my guest today. Kidsinsports.com will point you to my Facebook page now. Probably switch it over here to my Substack. Still considering a few things to do. Open to suggestions. You can send me email at my business address, coachmike@coachmikenow.com. And, give me your ideas. Tell me if you want to join us. Hey, come on board. Become a paid or free subscriber. That would be great. I'll tell you more about that after my interview with Chris Colby. Have a great day. We're recording, baby. It's live. Hey, welcome my guest today, my friend Chris Colby. Chris, I met Chris here at the business events, chamber events. He's got a business called the Hickory Algorithm. He does a lot of digital imaging, but he's also a coach like me. And he had the audacity and the nerve to invite me, a softball coach, to coach some baseball with him last year. So we got to know each other a little better. Chris, welcome to Kids in Sports.
Well, Coach Mike, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, I'll tell that story real fast for those that don't know. We were sitting in a Friday leads group with our local chamber, and my son was playing 15U baseball. I was going to be the head coach because I was the head coach for every team he's ever played on, I feel like, in baseball. And I didn't know anybody down here in Hickory when I moved here. And Coach Mike was, we've had coffee, I think, a couple times up until then. But when he said that he did softball, I said, close enough. You want to come coach some 15U boys, and I wasn't expecting a but man, you showed up. You didn't have any kids on the team, and I think that things like that speak volumes of the kind of person that you are. So I thank you.
Some people might take that differently, Chris. They might just think that might speak something else about.
No, I mean, I think we did pretty good, man. I think we, our styles jive together pretty well. And clearly they're different styles, but I think we were speaking the same language, which I think is the most important thing when you're coaching anything.
Anything, yeah. Aside from your sons, Chris, did you get any feedback from any other boys after the season was over?
You get it from the parents.
Okay.
You get a lot of, my kid could have played more and could have done more things, and you're gonna get it. In 2026 you're gonna get it. But the things I got from the kids were all positive. I mean, they were all. I saw one of the kids at Hickory High when I was picking up one of my kids, and asked him if he was playing baseball, and he said yeah. And I thought he was going to play 15U for Hickory, but he was playing for Hickory High. So he remembered my name, and that's Coach Chris, and he smiled when he saw me. So I mean, I take that as a win. There
you go. Hey, like I told you, I ran into to Landon, right? I ran into one of the boys that his sister is playing on the softball team I'm coaching this year. I've coached it. Our season's over now, but he shows up with his mom in the dugout one day. They remember him.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there because he was different. He had his hair done differently or something. I had to.
Oh, really? He didn't have like the spiked Billy Idol look.
No, he did, but it was shorter. It had
okay.
Almost a crew cut type of thing, or whatever, buzz cut, whatever you want to call it. And someone, mom said his name. Oh, okay, yeah, I got him. So That was I've never had that. You hear some coaches have that happen a lot over the years. And for
What's
as
that?
long as I've coached, I've only had it maybe a few times. And maybe it's because I've coached different teams. I've never been like 20 years on one team. I think that has something to do with it, of course. But I remember the first time, my first coaching in Southern California was when my daughter started playing softball. She was 7 years old. We were an 8U team in Downey. And fast forward 4 years, I think it was, 12 year old, almost 5 years, we decided to go travel ball. We were up at a tournament in Apple Valley, which is about an hour out of LA, by Victorville. And this one mom comes up to me, Coach Mike. And, okay, who the heck is this? And,
Right.
her daughter been on that first team I did. And so that was pretty cool. When somebody remembers you. I mean, you get people to do, but not like I get jealous here. Some of these coaches that, they'll have those kids come back 15, 20 years later. Hey, now they're coaching or they're doing something else great with their lives, which is really why we do it overall. We don't do it just to, try to win a few games. I guess some
Right.
coaches do, but we have a bigger purpose, I think, in mind.
Yeah, if you're not developing the individual, then you might as well just, you're just not for me. Go to those teams that, if you want to go undefeated and win all the championships, I mean, go ahead. You know what I mean? But I don't think that's why you and I are getting into it to pad our W column. You know what I mean?
A little late for that with me. You're young enough, maybe, it might help you.
No, you give me credit for my average. I mean, I remember my favorite season of coaching, we never won a game. That was my favorite season. Just
I've
because
had a
no
few
one.
people tell me those kind of stories.
Yeah, those were the best. Those were the best. I mean, we won the championship the year before that, and then all those kids moved up, and then we had a bunch of young kids come up, and we didn't win a game. I mean, it wasn't close. I mean, it wasn't. The last game of the season, we lost 2-1, and it was like we won the Super Bowl. But that was probably my favorite year coaching. It really
There
was.
you go. I hear that. I remember some of those. I remember some of those times playing our church basketball team we had in Phoenix years ago. The league used to be only for high school players, and we had some seniors. We won the championship. We had about 8 or 10 Lutheran churches in our league. We all played at our church because we had this huge gym. So all the games were Sunday afternoons at our church. And the year we lost the seniors and stuff, it was like the next year I think I was the tallest player in the team at 5'11" or whatever. And most of our offense was me and my best friend Mark. I'd get the rebound and he'd be darting off on a fast break. And we were playing this one church, Messiah Lutheran, and they had a guy named Bruce was their big guy in the He was about 6'2", I think. Anyway, I turned around because our whole offense was me grabbing the ball and throwing to Mark because the other guys we had were, and I turned around throwing. All I see is this purple go up in front of me, and I nailed Bruce right in the face with the basketball. And I obviously didn't do it intentionally, and thank goodness he recognized that. So he actually, we had sort of a joint Luther League meeting that night, and he came back. He had a black eye, and
Jeez.
he said he wasn't real happy about it. He says, I know he didn't mean to do that, but yeah, it obviously didn't feel very good. So, but yeah, we didn't win. I don't think, did we win a game that year? I don't remember. So, the dreams we had when we were younger,
Oh, right, dude. Yeah.
How long you been coaching, Chris? Talk to me.
Oh.
You say you've been coaching your kids about 15 now, 16?
Yeah, so my oldest is 17. I think we started, I mean, just sort of, I don't know if you call T-ball coaching. It's more like you're herding sheep, you know what I mean? Or you're trying to get bees to go to a hive. It just doesn't really work out. But yeah, so we did that probably since Jake was my oldest was probably about 6 and he's 17. So I mean, yeah, probably 10, 11 years, and that's basketball, or not basketball, baseball, football, and then I would help out in wrestling. So, almost all year round you're helping coach something. So that's
What sport did you play in school?
I played football and hockey. I played a lot of hockey. Didn't put any ice skates on. It was all foot. There was a couple leagues around Pittsburgh. There was 3 different like deck hockey leagues. But yeah, I was big into deck hockey. Played a lot on foot. Won a lot of championships. Had a lot of good times with my friends. But that team aspect is the best part of sports.
Okay.
I mean, it just is. But yeah, that was my background. How about you, Coach Mike? How long you been doing this for?
Well, I started my first coaching with my assistant coach for baseball for my cousin Carlos's team at Granada grade school in Phoenix. They had a summer league there, and I was his assistant. The guy's head coach's name was a guy named Mike Busker, I think it was, and I was one of his assistants. I think he had one other guy. I don't remember how that team did it all. Carlos ended up being the brill athlete of the family. Ended up going to be a Navy SEAL eventually. Ran cross country in high school, which I did too, and so he was proud to beat anything I did. he was better than I was. I had a potential being pretty good, but my sophomore year I bruised my feet with the cheap school issue shoes. That's why I started buying $100 shoes back then. And then the next year, I'd started working a job at a grocery store and got some glass cut under my knee or something like that. So I was late getting out, and then I developed a wheeze, and so that ended up my cross country career, so to speak. And my dad told me early when I was a kid I wasn't going to be a great athlete. Originally, Mickey Mantle was my idol, and I wanted to be a Yankee, be a baseball player. And Dad let me know I was probably never going to be a pro athlete. Sometimes you'd say, "Oh man, how could it be so cruel?" But back then that was even more the reality. Now you got a little better opportunity, but it's still probably 1%. Right. So, but that's I coached I coached boys club basketball in 77, young group. Coached a little baseball after that, and then when my daughter started playing softball. So I've been doing fast pitch softball ever since then, pretty much. So 15 years varsity high school and assistant coach for a year at junior college, a year at JV high school, and 2 years of middle school. So, and this year my middle school team, that was probably one of the funnest teams I ever coached. Had a great group.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what do they do now that the season's over? Do you just sort of have to wait until next year to see if you're back, or how does that whole thing?
No, I've already been asked to come back. I guess I fooled them. I mean, impressed them enough, that I did okay. And I'm actually pretty excited about it because I think I got a good group of 7th graders that are going to be a key core. My number 2 pitcher this year was a 7th grader. I actually had 3 pitchers this year. 2 of them are 7th graders. The 3rd pitcher was my number 1 catcher this year. So I think we're in good shape. And now I got a better idea. This year we had a lot of rain out early. So like we got to our first game, we'd had about a week of practice, and I still didn't really know all the pieces. I was still trying to remember a few of the girls' names,
Mm-hmm.
So it took us a little bit to get going, but we ended up 3rd place and 8 runs out of a 3-way tie for first place. If we had beaten Maiden the second game, which we lost by 6 runs, we would have had a 3-way tie for first place this year. So I think we did okay.
They didn't do any playoffs or anything for you?
No playoffs. No playoffs. And I don't know if it's so I don't know who dictates whether it's the school districts do it or how much the state does. I'm still figuring out some of that stuff. But for example, in high school, and this I believe is nationwide. I know it was in California. Some people were surprised when I asked them about it here. They thought, "Oh no, not here." But then I looked at the North Carolina High School Association side. It is a rule here too that you cannot play, like for example, on a travel team, you cannot play in a competition during the season of sport, or your high school season of sport. You cannot play on an outside team. You can practice with your travel team, but you're not supposed to play games. But middle school doesn't have such a rule. So I got girls that are getting done in my practice or game, then they're going off playing another game or something. And so I think that should be fixed because more for the interest of the players. I'm glad they're playing travel ball. It gives me better players, but at the same time, you're also subjecting them to more opportunity for injury and overuse. So,
yeah, you get into the travel ball, and then you think you're using this pitcher this day, and you're not now because they had a game the day before, and now you know what I mean? It's just
we don't worry about that in softball, Chris. There's no pitch counts in softball. They can go unbelievable amounts. It does need to be. You do need to watch it. If your pitcher tells you, my arm's feeling tired, something like that, then you better sit her down. But generally, the softball motion is a friendlier motion to the arm or to the shoulder. I remember the first time my daughter had a whole bunch of pitch. Matter of fact, that little picture up in the corner. Let me share. For everybody out there that's new and everyone don't know Coach Mike, here's what got me coaching softball many years ago. That's number 26. And my daughter Jessica, she pitched for Santa Fe High in Southern California. There was a 3-year varsity pitcher. I was real proud of her. But we went on this travel. The first travel team we had wasn't using her much, so we ended up going to another team where they were using her a whole bunch. We were in this weekend tournament. She threw 200 pitches on Saturday and 200 more on Sunday. Saturday was not an issue. Sunday, she gets to the point where she says, "Dad, my arms," or she told the coach her arm was tired. So he went ahead and took her out of the game. And I was okay. Then a little bit later, puts her back in. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, she says she's fine." I said, "She's 12 years old." Of course, she wants to get back in there. But, it ended up not being a problem. We iced her arm. We got home. Never ended up being a problem. But, that was sort of an extreme one. But some people were, I can't throw 100. Yeah, you can throw 100 pitches in a day without much problem in softball. Pretty common. So, he's thinking big time now.
No, I'm not thinking. I'm just like, that's just thinking about all the pitch counts and all the kids you had to. Just walking in and you have a game, you have a playoff game, you have something, and then a travel ball kid comes up and says, "Oh, my coach had me pitch 2 games this weekend, and it's Monday," and you're like, "Great,
thanks a lot, coach."
Yeah, right. Because they just tell you that those things. The worst thing for travel ball is those coaches act like everything besides what they're doing doesn't matter.
Amen.
I mean, that's the cardinal rule. Like that's what I worry when people ask me, "Hey, my kid wants to do travel ball," and it's like, well, the first thing that coach is going to tell you is everything else doesn't matter,
right?
Because you're spending the money on it, and you already sort of start losing me a little bit. And this is coming from somebody that did travel ball for 2 years, and it just didn't make any sense. None of it made sense to me. Not all the little Timmies are going to the MLB. It's just not. What's the percentage? Less than 1%. I mean, it's probably microscopic. But we treat them all like we have to give away our weekends or our vacations, so that way we can go to Savannah, Georgia. Go to Savannah, Georgia for a week while your kid sits on the bench for 3 games. It's like, what are we doing? But he had to go to practice every week and 3 times a week, and he had to do all these things. It's just, I'm not saying there's not good travel ball programs out there, but there are a lot of bad ones.
Yeah. Well, you got there's a lot of things going on. We used to get complaints, and I remember one year in particular when we got to our high school our league ending meeting, and the couple of the coaches of the teams that were making playoffs really were teed off because, and I think one of them was a travel ball coach, but the girl wasn't on his team. But there were a couple of his pitchers come in, a couple regular players too, had sore arms. for their first playoff game is Tuesday, and Sunday the travel team had this 6-hour practice.
Right.
And like you said, most of the travel coaches don't care, and that's sad. And I think something else has changed. A friend of ours told me, her daughter's played soccer, and he said, "Oh no, it's only about the travel."
Right.
The travel is a major portion of it, but it used to be, and I'm going back probably 20, 25 years at the clinics and whatever. There was a college coach that actually got up there and said there was one kid they were thinking about recruiting, and the kid was playing travel, wouldn't play for a high school team. Why aren't you playing for your high school? Oh, I'm too good for him.
There you go.
Into that recruiting, but I guess that's changed now too. So I guess it depends on each coach as well.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to their flavor. It all comes down, or if you or I were, scouting players and we got to pick who we're picking, we're probably looking straight into high school, right? Where you and I are probably like, show me the high school kids, show me the kids that are playing for their high school team, show me those guys first before going into these just wild travel leagues.
I like what I try to share with some people is that there's a big difference between school and travel. Yes, you are going to, if you want to get a college scholarship, travel is going to give you the best chance of that in in those sports. But there's a different pride for playing for your school team. At least that's the way I look at it. You might go win a national championship with your travel team, and that's great. But the pride you get with your school, because you got those kids that are never going to do travel with you, and they become your friends. And if you win something, or even if you don't win, but you go through that season together, it's a different relationship and everything. And I think there's a pride that if you just give up on your high school sports, you're missing out on that.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's well said. I just think that I agree with you. You should definitely be doing your high school sports, man. You really should. Especially because, that's your proximity, right? Like that's what you're there. Those are all the people you've probably grown up with. Those are all the people you've probably went to school with over time. That's about as close to community as you're gonna get are the kids that are in high school with you,
Yeah.
These are the guys that are gonna be going out in the workforce together. You're gonna see each other around, you're gonna see each other. Like so when you guys win something together, it's gonna mean something. It's one thing to but that's sort of the way all sports are now, right? There's no pride. It just comes down to how much you paying me and I'll come play for your team,
I haven't heard of a travel team having a 10-year reunion or 20-year reunion. Though. I'm sure maybe a few of them do out there. What I think some parents don't realize, Chris, is that there's different levels of travel. Today, I don't know how many levels I would count. I haven't been involved now. Maybe I'll get a little more involved if I start watching some of the players that are playing on my school team. But I used to say there's 3 levels. There was that elite level, and in SoCal, that was the Bat Busters. That was the Athletics. There was, there were the Punishers. There was a group of teams that you could count on them always competing for the state title.
Yeah.
Then you had the second level of teams, and for like one of my daughters was on a team called the Sharks, and then later on a team called Showtime. We weren't one of those elite teams, but we could compete with them, and sometimes we did pretty well. Sometimes we got our butt kicked. But then there's a third level, and I used to think, there's a good place for that third level is for the kids that maybe weren't picked early. You know how it is. There's always that kid that doesn't get picked because maybe they didn't develop earlier. So if they want to go through and use that to develop some players, but also recognize, some parents need to recognize your kid may never make it up there still. And now you're paying, like you said, a lot more money. And we had 2 different times. We had girls that were our 5th pitcher on our one team, and their dads decided to go to another team. One dad started his own team.
There you go.
I think he found out real quick why his daughter was our 5th pitcher, not one of our top 3 or 4. But, sometimes it takes it harder to find out.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about those 3 tiers. I think in PA it was just an A, B, C kind of like elite level. Whenever you do a tournament, it would be arguing this is an A level tournament, this is a B level tournament, this is a C level tournament. But the problem is that you have we call them trophy chasers, right? You just going back to the travel mentality. Just win trophies because that tells everybody how good you are, right?
Yeah.
You would have A teams playing C League tournaments and no one would say anything about it. You would have a team that would come in, they would win their 3 qualifying games by playing their lesser teams because they're qualifying games. They'd smoke teams 12-0, 2 innings, done. There would only be 6 teams in a tournament. And they would just go in and smoke everybody. I mean, one team won a C-level tournament and they didn't allow a run. I mean, we're talking 12-year-olds here. Like, we're talking, if you're a C-level team, I mean, and you beat everybody in C-level and you shut them out and you don't allow a run with different pitchers, what are you doing? But that travel team, they got the pictures on social media. They got to say that they won this tournament, and now they're state champs because because the tournament was called State Champ C League, and it was in the middle of Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? It was on like it's just such it's such
Racket.
a misleading thing, and no one in travel ball says anything because everyone's sitting around collecting money. No one's going to say
There are
anything.
people speaking up, Chris. Maybe we don't hear them as much. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
because
why
they're
we
not
get
allowed
some
to
of them
go to
on the
that shit
show.
anymore. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not allowed to go because they speak up. And it's like, no, just pay your money, sit on the bench, and listen to what we're saying.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I mean, I get messages from Pittsburgh, saying, hey, this person's still in charge of the league after 10 years, and they only do this, but no one says anything. So if you just keep allowing that to happen, I mean, the travel ball programs, the people that are running them, they're the problem. But the problem is we keep paying them. People just keep paying them. Say, well, what's my kid going to do? Not play? It's like, well, if that's the problem, shouldn't you be talking to your AD? Shouldn't you be talking to somebody else? Shouldn't you be talking? But they don't. And that's the fundamental problem with me with travel ball is if you have a coach that's just going to go out there and win every tournament and they're going to be an A team and we're going to win all these things. So that's how they're recruiting players. They're recruiting them saying, hey, come over here. We just won the state championship. They don't tell them it was a C-level tournament and they shut everybody out. And, they scored 140 runs in, 6 games and they didn't allow one, but we're just going to hand them the trophies and everyone's just going to act like this is okay. I don't know. That's sorry, I don't mean to get on my soapbox about that stuff, but I've seen it. It's not one time that I've
I'm
seen
sure.
it. It's
I'm sure.
dozens of times that I've seen it, and that the tournament people running the tournaments just invite them back next year because they pay the $200 fee to get in because they're making money. Right?
200. Yeah, that's what it used to be, Chris.
Well, that's
$200
my age
Gee,
now at this
Chris.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you because, I tried to start a travel team when I first moved here, and I was going to connect it to the Punisher organization out in California. My friend Bobby, I think he's retired now, passed on to somebody else. But one of the things he was offering was that, for example, if we weren't going to go to a national tournament, if we didn't feel we're ready, because the best coaches, at least what I experienced in SoCal, if they didn't feel their team was ready to compete at that national tournament, at least do well there, even if they didn't win it, they wouldn't go. They would say, no, we're just going to go to this tournament here, or we're going to end our season earlier. And like you said, there's other teams, they're going to try and find something no matter what they do.
Yep.
But unfortunately, I had a couple of girls that ever came out to the tryout, and I was new here, so I get that. But I ran into a coach, or not a coach, but this guy that ran a rec league at one of the fields north of Catawba, we'll say. And I was trying to find a field I could call as a home field. And this guy was playing clear. And the guy that referred me to him said he doesn't like travel ball. And he said, yeah, I don't like it. So, a travel team can actually be a blessing for a rec league.
Oh, for sure.
Right. If I'm going to be hopefully stay where my focus will be promoting your kids out of your league first and then grabbing other players, that could be a good thing for your rec league. But unfortunately, there's others that they'll take whoever they can get, take advantage of the situation. So, yeah, he didn't want to go for it. And, that was his choice, and he was running the field. So, What do you do? What do you do? One thing I'd like to accomplish with Kids in Sports here, Chris. So, I used to do this show. I started back in 2006 on Adrenaline Radio. It was an internet radio station out in California. And one of the things I see that I'd like to have at least even a small impact on youth sports. You go to different chat rooms, you go to Facebook or whatever, and the parents are arguing about the same things that parents argued about 20 years ago. I mean, there's some details may be changed, but it's basically the same thing. They're complaining about the same stuff. They're complaining about that this other coach did this, or this parent, why is this parent this way, or whatever. And yet they never, like, sort of like you say with the playing, who's playing in what tournaments, nobody ever rails them all to get them all together and say, hey, look, let's tone this down so we can make it better for the kids.
Yeah, you're going to have to pick one thing because there's a lot of things. So what's the one thing that really, you say like the same thing sort of getting recycled around out there? What's one thing that you see out there that the parents keep harping about? Now you said that doesn't change, it hasn't changed in a long time. Do you think it's the calls? What do you think it is? What do you think
that's always a given. I think that's America's second favorite sport is bashing the umpires of whatever sport.
Armchair is the number one sports of America, man.
That's it.
You put a keyboard in front of someone.
I could complain about that, Chris, because like I said, I sort of felt that second game we lost when we lost to Maine the second time. I felt I won't blame the umpire for the loss, but he made a call that I felt contributed to that loss. Let's put it that way. I learned a long time ago. It was a college coach at one of the clinics said, you never blame the umpire for your loss because let's say that umpire maybe made a bad call, they're only human like we are.
Right.
And maybe made a bad call. That call cost you one run, but why didn't you score 2 runs? Why did you make a mistake that didn't get you another run? Why didn't you hit better or whatever? So I tried to do this. Guy called an infield fly roll on a ball that was 15 feet on the grass behind the shortstop. And the shortstop was running for it. She knew it wasn't no routine play. But that killed the rally. I had nobody out, bases loaded, nobody out when he made that call. It just took the air out of our rally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about this weekend. I went to a buddy of mine. I'm honored enough to have people in my life and clients in my life that want to, invite me to their kids' baseball game. And I went over the weekend, and it's fun sitting in the stands and just watching a game. But I tell you what, there was a ball hit right down first base line, and it must have been 5 to 7 feet foul, and he never called it. And the kid grabbed it and made the play, got it, and tagged first. And man, you would have thought someone made a racial slur out there, dude. You know what I mean? Like the uprising of parents being mad about that call, and they're 7 and 8-year-olds. It's just like I remember that feeling though, because you try so hard, you want your kid to succeed in something that's so clearly, foul ball, but at the same time, it's like, why are we blowing blood vessels in our forehead over something like this? It
was 12 and under, it's okay, or middle school or high school, so 8 and under, yeah, come on.
it was rough, like easy. Everybody's still gonna get ice cream after the game. You know what I mean? Everything's gonna be fine. But it was the parents, right? The kids had no idea. The kid was upset he was out. He said something like, "Oh, I thought it was foul, so I didn't run as hard," or something. And it's just
he did.
Oh, dude, it was a whole thing, right? And then the parents are yelling, and they're yelling at the ump, and you're just like, guys, this isn't the end of the world. He's not going to not get a scholarship because that guy made a bad call. So, but I'm right there with you. The coach call or the calls can hurt, man. I mean, and it's taken me a lot because I'm a fiery cat sometimes, and I try not to react to everything. But man, there are calls where you just shake your head. But you got to realize, man, who else out those parents who, if I were running a league I would make sure that every parent had to volunteer to ump one game.
There you go.
Honestly, I think that's the only way you can solve the armchairs
So
is
like
by
scorekeeping.
yeah, well, not even score. No, scorekeeping is no. I want them out there. I want them out there making calls.
Yeah,
I
no, but I
want
mean
them.
it's the same thing. You try to get people to
Oh,
keep score. Nobody wants to do it, but then if the person that does it makes a mistake, they're what you didn't
oh,
get
they'll
my
run
kid a hit.
straight to you. You know, there's two balls. There's two balls, not one. And you're like, okay, dude, like go sit down. It'll be all right. Yeah, it's just that I think that's what's really hindering youth sports is really us as parents. I mean,
Yeah,
we're just not letting kids be kids, and everything has to be perfectly set up for them to succeed. And that's sort of not what sports is about. Sports is about overcoming problems as a team and working towards a goal. It's just that. But if you're going to sit around and criticize every call somebody makes, I mean, you're only hurting the kids at that point.
yeah, yeah. It's. I pride myself a little because I've never gotten thrown out of any game that I've ever played or coached. The only time I ever got thrown out of a game, I was a scorekeeper for my daughter's high school team. I was coaching, had been coaching at Newport Harbor High School, and so her sophomore year, she made varsity, and so I resigned from Newport for the next year. So junior senior year, I kept score for them, and we were at a tournament, and we were playing it against La Mirada High School, or maybe it was just a doubleheader. It was just a doubleheader, and there was the 70-year-old guy on the ump, and I'd had him before. He actually did a pretty decent job, but you could tell he was losing it. He wasn't obviously where he would have been 20, 30 years earlier. So both sides were getting on him actually because he blew a couple of calls that were very questionable, not 7 feet foul, not that bad, but anyway, he came over to chew on our dugout, and I was sitting in the bleachers behind in that center group behind home plate. And I guess one of our other parents made a comment, and all I said, it looks to me like somebody's getting too picky or getting about that, getting a little picky here. And all of a sudden, the blue turns and he looks over at the group of parents we're sitting there, and he points at me. He says, "You're out of here." So I'm going behind our team's dugout. My daughter said, "Well, there goes your record, Dad." I got lucky because if you got thrown out of a game, you weren't supposed to be around for the next game. You had one game.
Yeah.
So we had different umpires for the second game, so I was able to come back and keep score. Anyway, when I came back, one of the other kids' parents said, "Mike, I'm sorry. I think he meant to throw me out because he said what I said was a lot worse than what you said." But it is. There's a shortage of umpires, and people wonder why.
Oh yeah, dude.
The reason you don't want to go out there for all the abuse. You got better things you can do with your life.
Right, man. That's you're out there thinking you're helping out the community, making a couple extra bucks. You know what I mean? And then it turns into just you watch those guys leave the field sometimes, and you're just like, I got to walk with them. I mean, I've walked some, especially the young kids. Man, it's the young kids that are just they might be doing high school baseball and they're just trying to if they're rec league, they're just trying to make a couple extra bucks, and they're not in the rec league anymore, they're now in high school, they're just but man, those kids they get crushed, man. Some of these kids get really get yelled at, man, by some of these parents, and good on them for being in high school. But that shocks me. I thought for sure you would have been thrown out of more games,
No,
Coach Mike. I thought you would have
I'm a
been.
pretty calm dude. I think I had a few parents over the years that thought I should have, that they were actually a little bit upset with me that I didn't push an issue and get thrown out.
Yeah.
But I said, well, the closest I came other than that, I'll tell you this. We were playing, when I was coaching at Western High School in Anaheim, we were playing Kennedy. And I never did beat Kennedy. I came close a couple times. Never could beat him. We had this one game, and I had we were on defense, and one of their batters come up, and she tried to bunt the first two pitches, and she put the bat out there, didn't pull it back, Umpire calls the ball, didn't call the strike. And I said, Blue, what are you doing? And finally, he turns around to me. He says, I don't want to hear nothing more out of you. He said, I'm fed up with you. I said, fed up with her? What did I do? I said, she offered it the bunt. Should be a strike. He said, I'm just tired of this stuff. I'm not going to put up with the language you. I said, what are you talking about? I called time, went out, and I said, he said, well, you come in here cussing F this or F that, whatever it was. And I says, I'm sorry, but you did not hear me saying that kind of language, and especially in front of the girls. And my assistant coach even told him, he said, he doesn't even talk that way in practice. Well, no, I know whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, what it was is one of the other girls, the girls on their team, I guess when she stomped on old Blake, came across and she, whatever reason, cussed up something. So the inning was over, and I'm going to the third base coach's box, and I told him, I says, I want an apology from you before the end of this game because I did not talk that way. You did not hear me talk that way. I don't know what you heard, but it wasn't me. And I went down there. So after every pitch, if he called a strike, he's looking down to see if I'm going to respond.
Chirp, yeah.
And I didn't. I just stood there and I'd look. Finally, the seventh, we're going out to the field, the seventh inning. And he comes down and he says, Mike, I apologize. I thought it was you. I says, no, it wasn't me. I wouldn't do that. I've only ever had 2 or 3 close confrontations with umpires like that. And I don't think either one, I didn't get a warning. Now they have this thing where I guess they can confine you to the dugout. But so that's your next step before you get tossed. Before they didn't.
Oh, that's your probation period.
Probation, yeah. So, well, Chris, I know you got your connection. I want to get this promoted. I want to get a chat. My goal with Kids in Sports here, we want to get a chat thing. Hopefully we'll do it here on Substack. If I have to create a website to do it separately, I may do that, whatever. But I'd like to see a community, see all the chat rooms. And I showed you a friend of mine, Hey Bucket, out in SoCal. John's a good guy. And they have all these, nice chat board, and you can talk about different subjects. I'd like to have that there. And I'd like to have, I'm asking for paid subscribers. And I'm only asking $5 a month. And I wasn't even going to ask that, but Substack says your minimum is $5.
Yeah, they need their cut, dude. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess so. So I got it at $5. I'm gonna I'm gonna put some of the money to give away or something. But the only reason I want to do the pay there, I don't mind making a little money, but not that. I want to keep bots out of there, because on Facebook you get these threads where they're just arguing the heck out of something. Half of the responses are AI
generated. Yeah.
And so I want to eliminate that, but also try to create an atmosphere that would, let's help change the game a little bit from the standpoint. So everybody just tones the temperature down. I don't mind if you get upset because ump makes a call. And I think most umps know they know they're going to blow a call now and then.
Right.
But you still, like they say, don't just yell at me from the day. Call time, come and talk to us about it, and we'll deal with it. That's not too much to ask, I don't think.
Yeah, and I don't think if I had to give a advice to any coach out there listening, you're not going to change their mind either.
Oh.
Like you're just like that's. So you arguing may just affect the next call
or the next game,
right? And it's like I try to go. I don't want to say above and beyond, but try to go and learn the person's name, let them know, and if you disagree with something, just go talk to them. Don't throw a huge fit from the dugout. Like whenever you and I were coaching, we had a couple I'll say disagreements with the ump, but I mean I was the third base coach, so I got to walk past them and just sort of say, have a quick conversation like, hey, what did you see there? This is what I saw. And then, they'll just say, well, he got the ball early, or, he didn't hold on to it long enough before he dropped it, and I ended up letting him play.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you just talk to them and not even just calling them out immediately, I mean, I think that's sort of, I always say kid gloves. Like, you just put kid gloves on with them and you just sort of got to talk to them, because that's how I want to be talked to. I don't want to, I'm going to mess up too. We're all going to mess up. But, if you just yell and scream and chirp at them, you're not gonna get the next call. You're not gonna get the call after that. You're just not gonna get it because he
They never
knows.
get another. Hey,
Yeah,
I saw, if I can find it again, Chris, maybe I'll find it. Maybe it's on YouTube or Facebook somewhere. But not that long ago, somebody did a video where the coach made a call. Maybe a coach sent a runner and she got thrown out or something. And the umpire, all of a sudden, the umpire stops and comes out, Coach, what do you think you're doing? There's no way she would have made it home, mama.
right.
And the umpire just started yelling at the coach or, yelling at the parents or something like that. It was really funny. And I thought, sometimes we need to think about putting that shoe back on the other foot. One thing I learned a long time ago, I teach my girls, my catcher. I says, you got another job besides catching that ball. I says, you need to be the umpire's best friend. I says, no every umpire, they got everybody yelling at him. You're down there, you want him to call your strikes right. Nothing those umps will love more than a pretty girl comes out to be there, hey, Blue, how you doing? Good to see you, and just treat them nice. And you'd be surprised sometimes you'll get the calls,
Yeah, I even and I've told our catchers this when we were coaching together was, if you disagreed with the call, just wait till the inning's over. Whenever we're switching, we're going back, just ask them what they saw. And it very much is going to be, hey, what'd you see on that, that ball 4, that last batter? They might just say, hi, or low. And they might not give you an answer at all. But at least they know that you're paying attention to. You know what I mean? At least you know that, okay, this kid's actually paying attention. He thought it was a strike. Not argue, not say too high, too low, but the ump more than likely is going to give you a one-word answer because he doesn't want to deal with it either. It's over and done with. But at least you're getting a rapport with Blue, and at least asking the question too of what now, we've only had maybe 2 catchers that actually did do that, but I think that stuff goes a long way, man. I really do. I think it goes a long way to helping you coach, and also taking it out of your hands and letting it just sort of happen instead of trying to control everything else is probably the best advice I could give a coach.
There you go. Chris, I'm going to leave you with one last story that I'm sure you'll love. There goes my voice a little. Years ago, my daughter's travel team, we were playing in a tournament somewhere. Or a friendly might have been. Anyway, the umpire behind the play, his name was Joe. Good guy. There was a ball that went foul, he called it foul, but it actually came back fair. But he already called it foul. Well, of course, the other coach complained.
Yeah, right.
And so he gives the runners the next base or whatever. And so our coach protested, their coach. So he let it stand, let them get an extra base or whatever. When he came by the back, I say, Blue, I hate to tell you this. I says, you can't do that. Once you call it foul, it's a foul ball. I don't care if it's sitting in the pitcher circle. And we can overturn calls. I says, you can overturn most calls. That's one you cannot. And I already had the discussion, I guess, somebody higher up somewhere. But I wanted to follow up. I wrote all the way up to there's a guy named Merle Butler. I don't know if he's still alive. He's retired. He was the head of the umpires for ASA for the whole softball world, right? And he actually called. I think I got him on my show. I don't know if I can find the episode. I think he actually got on my show years ago. But he said, Mike, let me tell you, he says, I was up in a game the night before or whatever. And he says he blew a call like that. The ball stopped right on the line. And the coach come out and said, hey, that's a fair ball. And he says, you know what? Tomorrow night, if that happens again tonight, it'll be a fair ball. If it happens tomorrow, it'll be a fair ball. But right now, that was a foul ball. Because once you call foul, the defense stops.
Yeah.
You're just killing the whole thing. And so this Blue, Joe bet me on it. He said, I'll bet you on it. And I got a letter back from Earl, and I sent him the email. And I said, here's the official word from the top umpire guy in the country. And he sent me the $20. I turned around and bought a $10 Starbucks card and sent it to him. So
that's great.
I know it's all good fun. Hey, people are going to make mistakes. We make mistakes. I won't admit that I do, of course. Coach is always right.
Yeah, very light on the mistakes.
If you think that the coach is wrong, go back to rule number 1. Chris, thanks for joining me today, buddy. It's always a pleasure. I'm looking forward. It's a shame we couldn't coach together. So sad they didn't even have enough for one team, huh? Or they have one team or no teams?
They didn't have one team, man. They had I think they said 6 kids sign up, and 2 of them were mine.
I think that gives you too much power over the team there, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, right. That made me the coach too. Yeah, right.
Hey, everybody. Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks for joining me. We'll definitely catch you on another episode of Kids in Sports.
Yep. Thanks, Coach Mike.
See you, everybody. Hey, thanks for watching Kids in Sports today. I hope you enjoyed my interview with my friend Chris Goldby. Chris is a great guy. And, like me, he has a passion for youth sports. He has a passion for seeing the kids succeed. He does a leadership volunteer program at one of the local high schools. And, just a good guy. So anyway, I'd invite you to join my Substack, become a free or paid subscriber. Obviously, my wife would I would like paid more. The reason I'm doing paid and the reason it's $5, I was going to go less than that. Substack says it has to be at least $5 a month. I'm going to do some neat things with that, maybe some prizes giveaway now and then. But the reason I'm doing that to eliminate the bots, I want to have real conversations with all you parents and umpires and coaches out there. And let's make youth sports great again, right? Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully see you with a new episode next week.